Welcome, everybody, to the Old Gold Show. With you as always, I'm co-manager over at Hammer and Rails, Andrew Ledman.
And I'm Casey Bartley over at Boiler Upload, Rivals Network.
And we're here to discuss Purdue's victory over the Xavier Musketeers and look ahead to the Maui Invitational that is in Honolulu coming up next week, the week of Thanksgiving. So Casey and I will actually both be there in person. Is going to be very exciting. Going to be some great basketball in that event. But before we get too deep into that, let's talk about Purdue's victory over Xavier. Casey, I know you were there in person. I was only at home watching on TV. Purdue comes away with a 12-point victory, 83-71. Not really an overwhelming performance by the Boilermakers, but a workman-like performance, a business-like performance where Purdue was facing the best team they've played this year, but still it was never truly in doubt. Xavier, again, it kind of like with the previous game, they chipped away at the lead, got it down to around 10, 9, 8, but then Purdue would find a way to push it forward. Is there anything about this game that stood out to you that kind of made you see a little bit more of who Purdue can be?
Yeah, I think one thing, the more that I've ruminated and watched it a second time, it stands out to me that last year this game would have been a 4-point game. And the same way Purdue kind of held off teams last year would be 1-2 possessions holding them off. But to be able to hold a team at 10 points, at 12 points, where they never really threaten get within a shot, I think that is telling that just how dominant this team can be. Because, once again, the narrative was like 29-11 for Zach Edey, and it wasn't that great of a performance. Like, it was just ho-hum. He missed some hook shots.
Yeah, I mean, 28-11, and he had some dominant moments where Purdue went back to him, time and time again, back-to-back possessions, and he just took his guy right to the hoop without a problem. But, I mean, he did. I mean, he was 9 of 17 from the floor. So, and it wasn't like they were really difficult shots. It's just shots that he would normally make, and they just didn't fall. That's going to happen from time to time. Even, no matter how close you are to the rim, no matter how close you are to the bucket, you're going to miss some. And he missed 8 of his 17 in this game. So when you take into account that he missed that many shots and Purdue still was up by 12 for the vast majority of the game, I think it's very a lot more impressive. And I know, as you said, being up by double digits instead of getting down to maybe 4, 6, 3, not only is it obviously, it's better to be up more, breaking news, but it's more of a psychological effect on your opponent as well, because it just 10 points, double digits, it just feels so much further away. You just feel so much more behind than you do when it's down to 7 or 6 or 4.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting to see that Zach Edey through these first 3 games hasn't really gotten the ball deep in position as much as I think he did last year. I think teams are even more cognizant of that and just really making sure that he can't get in for an automatic layup, because if he catches it within 2-3 feet of the basket, those hook shots that he missed, like those are going in. So it's interesting that his easy baskets and close shots at the rim are coming off pick and rolls more than anything. Him and Braden Smith already, building on the chemistry from last year. I think that's good. I think you definitely want to see the easy baskets a little more from Edey, not have him settle for long jump hooks. But I think just in general, being more dominant in the pick and roll with Smith and Edey is a positive, especially when you get into teams with more size, length, skill. I think that makes it tougher on them to guard. So I think that's good. And then it's just the bench players for Painter right now have been everything he could have hoped for.
Yeah.
Obviously, Miles Colin's going to step out with a 3 for 3 from 3, but Camden Heide had really good minutes early. Got the 2, finally got his dunk to fall.
Right.
Got the alley, which if there's a play this season that just encapsulates what's different about this squad to last year, Lance Jones steals it. Perfectly fine. That happens. Purdue did steal the ball last year.
Yes, a time or two.
His ability to take that steal and push it past 3 defenders. We talked about that a little bit last time, but like his ability to just push the pace and burn by people. And then to have a guy that can keep up with them and just a great lob, great seeing that. But those easy baskets and like turning that stuff into points really matters.
And just the replay of that pass from Jones to Edey. I mean, it was so perfect. It was just barely over the outstretched fingers of the defender. And Edey just absolutely perfect timing, got up there and threw it down. And I do think Camden Edey has really surprised me so far this season, just because it has been so long since he even played a basketball game, missed so much, or even the entirety of his senior year of high school, and then redshirted last year. So I don't think anybody knew really what to expect from him. You can listen to the coaches and how, he's looked great, he's everything we wanted and more, blah, blah, blah. But you don't really know until you see him on the court. And I think he's blown by my expectations. And Miles Colvin also, as you said, 3 for 3 from deep, continues to come along. And he is really going to force Painter's hand. You've got to play a guy like that. You can't continue to leave him on the bench, but Painter has got a minutes crunch. I mean, who do you take off? Morton came back in this game. And I thought he played well, but he played, let's see, how many minutes did Morton play? Only 10 minutes.
Not very many. So
I don't know. The one thing I wanted to ask you about as we talk about this game, this is now the third game of the season. Trey Kaufman-Renn in the starting lineup alongside Zach Edey. How do you think that is working so far? In this game, for everybody who didn't watch, Kaufman only played 17 minutes, missed both of his shots, only wound up with 1 point, and grabbed 3 rebounds. So not a stat stuffing kind of game, but what do you see that's not in the stat sheet? Do you feel like this experiment is working, or is it something Painter's going to move away from?
Do you want me to blow your mind like right off the bat?
Would love it.
Headlining.
Yeah.
So Trey Kaufman-Renn is kind of replaced. He's like inside post Brandon Newman.
Was that the blow my mind part?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you got to expound on that. Give me more.
It just feels a little bit like Newman, where you can see the tools.
Oh yeah.
They're all there. Big body, strong, fast for his size, decent shooter, smart. It just doesn't always seem to click in a way that is satisfying and that you want it to see. And I don't think it's just him playing the 4. I don't think offense is complicated for him with Edey out there. I talked to him before the season, and it is more simple to play with Zach Edey than not.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. Just the gravity well that Zach Edey is. I mean, it clears up everybody else.
But he just sometimes gets lost in his own ideas of what he's trying to do with the ball. And it's sometimes like he loses feel for the court. He wants to get to a spot, and that's the only thing in his mind, and he kind of just stubbornly bangs into it. There's a lack of rhythm at time with that. And then defensively, he just looks lost at times. I think he leads the clubhouse. And before Lance Jones started shooting from Crawfordsville, TKR
I was gonna bring that
getting
up,
yelled at. Yeah. Getting yelled at just for, being attentive on defense, being in the right spot. It's still not natural to him. And it's still sometimes like you see him thinking out there. And it kind of the same way Newman you'd almost see like the rotating, like trying to catch signal when he had the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite as fluid as his offense is with so many different people. And I'm just wondering, like, is that a thing that's even coachable out? Is it something he gets more comfortable with? Or is this just he's used to playing in such a way, ball dominant in the post, not really having to think and worry about 4 other pieces and moving around. And it just seems to me like it's not quite gelling. I don't think it's been a net negative.
No, I don't think so either.
The starting lineup plus minus is still way up there. It's just, once again, that's not the lineup that closed play.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's going to be a lineup they close in anything but blowouts.
Yeah. So Painter is usually not apt to change his starting lineup when his team is winning games. even if someone particularly isn't playing well or doing exactly what he expects them to do, he tends to stick with the same starting lineup as long as the team is winning. Now, like you said, he might close with a different lineup. He'll change who closes the game. He'll change who's in there in crunch time. So do you anticipate TKR staying in the starting lineup?
You want some breaking news, Ledman?
Would love it. Would love it.
As anticipated, if you read Boiler Upload on the on our whole recruiting, we kind of didn't fully go out and say it, but Jakari Harris, son of Glenn Robinson, has committed to play
officially
for the Purdue University Boilermakers.
Very nice. Very nice. That's big news. That's big news. I mean, he's what, mid-70s somewhere on Rivals?
I believe he is higher than that.
Oh, well, they might have just, I know they did some reshuffling recently, and I might not have seen the new rankings, but I believe at one point he was 78th.
He is a 4-star for sure.
Right.
And you are right. He is actually 86th nationally, 23rd at his position.
Okay. Okay. So that, I mean, that's great news. That we can, if you want to dig into it for a minute, we can talk about it. But let me just say that adds now a 6th person to this recruiting class. And
wild.
Purdue does not have 6 scholarships. So I don't know what we're going to do here, but
according to Matt Painter, they do.
Listen, far be it from me to question Matt Painter, but I can also do basic math, and I can count to to my teens. So I'm not sure where these scholarships are coming from. He obviously knows more than I do about their scholarship situation.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, yes. But like, would he know that now? That seems like, what do you come to your coach before the season? Hey, I'm going to stay for one more year because I think we might win the whole damn thing, and then I'm going to leave. I don't know. That seems a weird conversation to have, but I guess if you don't need the scholarship, sure.
I was a New Orleans Saints fan while Breeze was around, obviously. It's kind of the way salary cap works, I think. It's just all imaginary numbers. They don't exist.
Yeah. It's a strange situation. Yeah, I don't, it's one of those, somebody asked me on Twitter the other day when we pointed out that they were still waiting on someone else to sign. They were like, how does that work? And I was like, well, that is a future Purdue problem. And as current Purdue, you're worried about just getting the best players in, and you'll figure out the scholarship number in a month, 6 months, before they come onto campus. You'll figure it out. That is future Purdue's problem. Right now, you're trying to make your team better. And with Jakari Harris coming on to the Boilermakers, the team just got better. So they'll deal with that in the future.
That it might be, when we're 30 years from now and we're on YouTube 14.
If I'm still doing this in 30 years, I really hope.
What else are you going to do? You're going to be retired by then.
I really hope I've gained some prominence, and maybe I'm not doing this from my my upstairs bedroom.
Just call it an office.
Well, it's like a loft with a bedroom. It's a whole thing. But regardless, it's better than having my son's letters behind me. So you've got some Star Wars stuff. You've got some Muppets.
I mean, you've already moved up. When we started doing this podcast, like 2 years ago, you were sitting on a Play Kids table, right?
I was sitting on the floor with the laptop on the children's table. But we do have a new, bigger children's table downstairs. So I'm moving up all over the place.
Right. Regardless of this, this could come down as the greatest recruiting class of Matt Painter's career. Yeah, and that's saying something.
And they were ranked 8th in the country before adding Jakari Harris. So who knows where they're going to go now?
Yeah, just in the last few years, he had a class that had Zach Edey and Jaden Ivey. It is remarkable what he's doing. Yeah. So another big get. It's a guard that fills a positional need in the future. Jakari Harris can play. Yeah. So we'll finish up with one more thing about the Xavier game before we move on. We got to talk about Lance Jones taking 3-pointers
from Crawfordsville, as Matt Painter said in his postgame. We talked about it after the Morehead State game because he took one right in front of the Purdue bench from about 4 feet back from Crawfordsville, in the parlance of Matt Painter, and he made it. And it was a beautiful shot, and it, huge shot for the crowd. But that was one of those, as we said at the time, it's a stupid shot that got you a good result. That does not make it a smart shot or a smart decision. And in this game against Xavier, he took at least 2 from way, way behind the line, and not during like a time when the shot clock was running down. So I think they were bad decisions. And I think Painter, as he said in that post game, is really trying to hammer that home for him. You don't have to be a chucker now. It's a different team than you were on, in Southern Illinois. So I really hope he gets that message, because I love the energy that he brings on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that's the double-edged sword of it. Like, the aggressiveness you love, you need. Purdue needs that out of a guard. It's just learning to pick your spots just a little bit more. And, it definitely seemed like a guy getting caught up in Mackey Arena. Like the energy, pulling deep. And those are shots he took last year. Like, it's a habit that he's going to have to break. But he's also had years where he didn't take 273s like he did last season.
Right.
So it's in there. It's all fun and games when you win.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think we'd all be a lot more upset if this was a game in Hawaii and Purdue loses by 2 and Lance Jones missed 3 3-pointers from 4 feet behind the line where there was 15 seconds left on the shot clock. I mean, it's a completely different scenario. Right now we can brush it off, but in that scenario, I think we'd all be pretty annoyed.
Yeah, but at the same time, Purdue kind of needed that after last year. They had a squad towards the end of the season where
no one would shoot.
No one. So, like, once again, great job by Matt Painter to identify someone who was under the radar, not the top names on the list of transfers that Purdue was looking for. If you listen to any media outlets, people that look at that kind of stuff, but just like, yes, don't take 30-footers, but also be that exact person. So exactly. It's one of those things where I think it's such an easy thing not to do that Painter gets annoyed by it. Cause it's just like, just don't.
Right.
I love it. Everything else. I love what it means, not what you're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. So I'm sure that is something that'll get cleaned up as we move on, but we're going to take a break right now. We got some sponsored messages for you. We're going to come back and look ahead to Purdue's next game, which is going to be in the state of Hawaii.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
And we are back with you. So as promised, we're going to talk Maui, which is now in Honolulu because of the wildfires. Casey and I are both heading to the state of Hawaii. Casey, when are you leaving and when are you arriving?
Well, I'm leaving Saturday night, which means an early morning trip up to Evanston to watch the football game. And then leaving from O'Hare to Seattle at Saturday night. And then the flight out to Honolulu is Sunday morning. So it's going to be fun. It's
Okay.
like 28 hours of travel.
Yeah, that sounds great. I am flying from Dulles and going from Dulles all the way to Honolulu. So straight flight, going to be, according to my math, just under 11 hours on a
Is
plane.
that taking into the account losing the 5 hours? So is it actually 6 hours?
Yeah. No. So I looked up flight time and it said 10 hours and 55 minutes.
You're going to be on an aircraft for 11 hours?
I hope I'm wrong.
What does one do on a plane for that long?
Well, so we're flying United, and I don't know what the situation is because I'm cheap, so I usually fly Southwest. So I'm not used to these fancy airlines. So I don't know if I'm going to have Wi-Fi. I don't know if there's
what are
going to
your
be
expectations for United? Because it's not that fancy.
Well,
unless United is
than
sponsoring us, and then you are fantastic, United.
Then that's the only way to fly.
It's the fanciest.
I just mean fancier than Southwest.
Okay.
We're tripping over the bar. Love Southwest, but I would not describe them as fancy. So,
is there even a first class in Southwest?
No,
that's so
not at all.
Okay.
There are no classes in Southwest. We're all the same on Southwest. So I am flying. We take off at like 6:55 a.m. So we got a hotel. We're staying near the airport the night before, and we're gonna go out there, and I'll be in the air during the Purdue football game. So not sure if I'll be able to watch it or not. We'll see if there's Wi-Fi on the flight, but doesn't matter. We're gonna land in Hawaii. We're gonna get ready to go. But what a field in Honolulu. In the latest AP Top 25, of course, Purdue ranked number 2. If you look at the rest of the field, number 1, Kansas, number 4, Marquette, number 7, Tennessee, number 11, Gonzaga, and UCLA is receiving votes. So it's a murderer's row of competition down there. And whoever walks out as the winner of this Maui Invitational is going to have earned it. They're going to come out a fighter's champion.
Yeah. Little bit of it could very easily be Gonzaga is the easiest game Purdue has.
Which is absurd.
Right. It's not a thing you're used to saying. They lost a guy.
No.
They haven't been great to start the season. Fun fact about Gonzaga. Trivia time.
I love trivia? Fun facts.
Okay. Okay, so it's not really a question as much as how many threes do you think Gonzaga has made this year as a team? They've played 2 games.
They played 2 games. Well, this has got to be a trick because I'm thinking they've probably hit very few, and I'm comparing it to Michigan State, who only hit 2 in their first 2 games. So I will say they've hit 4.
They have hit 1 Miles Colvin season worth of threes.
7. Is that 3 or 7?
7. Miles Colvin is 7 of 10 true freshmen in his
70%
first 3
pretty
collegiate
good
basketball games. And that is the total that Gonzaga, unless they play again, which they will play in 5 days against us. So coming into the game, Miles Colvin will have as many threes as the entire team of Gonzaga.
How many attempts if they've made 7, it'd be great if they were like 7 of 8, but I have a feeling that's not the case.
I'm going to do quick math. 13, 16, 19. They are 7 of 19, which is just under 30%, I believe.
Yeah, that is correct. It's always scary to do math live. So I'm really proud of you there. You did a great job.
I don't think anyone has expectations of me, so I think it's fine.
Well, yeah, it's like Southwest. Expectations are low. You've just got to exceed them. So, but again, if Southwest wants to throw some money at us, it's the only way to fly. So Purdue, obviously, we know game 1 is Gonzaga. After that, it all depends on who wins the other games because this is a tournament. But man, how great would it be to be able to be in an arena and watch number 1 versus number 2 when Purdue and Kansas were to meet? For a title, like it hardly gets any better than that. The Maui coconut and enough straws for everyone on the team.
No, that's how COVID started.
I don't think I'm going to have to check the tape, but I don't think that's accurate.
It's going to be an interesting first matchup because Purdue on paper is much better than Gonzaga. And Gonzaga they're pretty much playing 7 guys. No Drew Timme anymore. What is their identity now? And I think if any team in the country, you kind of know Purdue's identity. And also, I kind of double check those numbers because despite the lack of 3-pointers made, do you know how many points Gonzaga put up in their second game? A win over non-D1 Eastern Oregon?
Probably 90.
123 points.
123, and they only made how many threes in that game?
And they made all 7. All 7 of the threes.
Okay.
Interesting. So we're learning
still
things.
I mean, that is a ton of points.
Yeah. But according to Ken Palm, it's going to be a 79-77 Purdue win. Oof. So math and computers say tight game.
Yeah. What say you? I mean, what says Casey, the eyeball test, the man who watches the basketball?
I think Purdue handles them much in the way they handled them last year.
Yeah.
I was in Portland for the Phil Knight Invitational, and it was interesting because Purdue's athleticism was too much for Gonzaga. And I think they're more athletic this year.
Yeah.
And without Timme, I mean, they're a faster team, obviously. A little less post-centric, but they've also not been tested. I think Purdue right now is as tested as a team there is. The Arkansas game exhibition, Xavier coming to the house. So I would be disappointed if Purdue doesn't come in and dominate early. The second game is what is really going to challenge Purdue.
Right. And again, we don't know who that second game is going to be against, just because of the nature of the tournament. Let me ask you this. This is not related to the games on the court. This is related to getting your credential for the game. I got an email, and I assume everyone who applied got the same email, that they have a large number of credential requests. Of course, I was approved. I'm already, that's not the worry. But they were like, if there is a large number of people at a game, some folks for the media maybe put in the overflow media workroom, during the game. I'm going to be angry.
I will fight you for a chair. Yes.
I'm going to be angry if that happens. Could you imagine going all the way to Hawaii? You get to Hawaii and they're like, we have a lot of people that want to watch this game. So you're going to go watch it in here on a TV.
Kind of first world problems. We get to go to the game for free, Ledman. So
yeah, no. To be fair, to be clear, absolute first world problem. But I'm just saying, how annoying would that be? And if, especially if that goes on to game 2 or game 3, say Purdue, Kansas in a championship game, and they're like, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're covering it for us. We're going to put you in the media workroom.
Ledman, I know you don't get to go to as many games as I do.
Yeah.
I'll show you the tricks.
Good.
Sneak little thing. There are 8 teams there. They will have chairs for 8 media worth. We're going to be in Hawaii. I don't think. I'm just going to guess.
I think I know where you're going.
Media is not going to be sitting down to watch Purdue Gonzaga.
Yeah.
There will be chairs assigned that people will not show up for.
I would imagine. That's my hope. I'm just basing it off the emails. I've been to the NCAA tournament. I've been to the Big Ten tournament as a media. I went to the Palestra with you as media. So I've been to all kinds of places, never gone all the way and crossed the entirety of the country and an ocean. And then, have to worry about getting put in a media overflow room. So let's hope that does not happen. But moving on from that, let's see. We've got, just a whole bunch of teams that Purdue could face that are going to be absolute killers. Mm-hmm. I mean, is this the best preseason tournament you've maybe ever seen?
Yes. But that's also not something you really track. So
no, but I mean, I guess.
But you're not going to do much work. It's 3 top 5 teams?
3 top 4 teams.
4. Okay.
1, 2, and 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute just blitzkrieg like super talented teams. Like it is going to be a test for everyone. It's going to be a test if you lose.
Yeah. I mean, if you lose, you don't go to a loser's bracket against, Joe Blow from, down low. I mean, you're playing another two good teams, even if you're in the loser's bracket. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be a really good showing for these, especially Purdue's guards. Because if we've seen anything from them, the Arkansas game was a little concerning. The turnovers were back, the bad shooting. Right. So when you're playing these, it's a lot easier to go up. Like Xavier's a decent, good team. It's really easy to do that at home. Like it's easier. Yeah. And to go to these neutral floor games, it's something Matt Painter says all the time. Like this is the prep for NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. Not home games, not road games. There's so much volatility when it comes to that kind of stuff. So when you can get them on a neutral floor against these top tier opponents, this size and length to see, is this Braden Smith that we've seen? The near triple double, the complete control of the game, the pull up jumpers, the creating baskets for everyone. Does that travel against the best teams in the country? Can Fletcher Lawyer continue to do the small things and defend just well enough to not be a liability on that end? Is Lance Jones stop shooting 30-footers? How long is the leash on Trey? Like all of these things really get battle tested when they're going to have to play these 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Not much prep work in between. If anything, Purdue's, I mean, looking at Gonzaga, they play 7 guys. It'll be fine for the first game, obviously, for both sides. But when you get day 2, day 3, and like who's in a rhythm, who's playing, what other options, I think being able to see that against 3 different, because there's a path where Purdue probably, like it looks like they'll play Gonzaga, then Tennessee, then Kansas if it goes chalk. And you can't have 3 much different opponents. So to see, to be able to gather that information after these 3 games is just going to be invaluable for Painter, for, all of us who like to talk about stuff. It's just being able to get that instant feedback and how much does Smith hold up? I think if I'm looking at anything, it's what we're seeing right now is that who he is.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, the level of competition will just be so much higher. And as you said, is Braden Smith the guy that we've seen these first 3 games, or is Braden Smith the guy who had a really hard time in that exhibition game against Arkansas on the road? And if he's more the guy we've seen the last 3 games, it really does continue to raise the ceiling for this Purdue team, and raise the floor as well. But it's not something that we can really predict. We can't really, guess what the exact opponents will be, and we can't determine how Purdue is going to look on day 2 or day 3. I guess what I want to ask you is, should Purdue go into this tournament, say they go 1-2, say they go even, worst case scenario 0-3, how much does that change what you're looking for the entirety of this Purdue season? How much does that change? How much would that change the ceiling for this Purdue team in your mind?
I kind of have a bad answer, because I think if you've learned anything from following Purdue for the last few years, none of this really matters. Painter said this.
Good. I'm glad we're talking about it.
Just not from March. Like Painter said this a few times, where it's like, I've gone into March on a hot streak. I've gone to March on a cold streak. I've gone to March winning the tournament, losing the Big Ten tournament, losing early in the year, winning early in the year, winning the Big Ten. It's a 1-game tournament, and I don't think your flooring or ceiling changes here. But I think if something's going to change, it's going to be the national media and attention and pressure towards this team.
Yeah, that's true.
And for good or bad. Purdue's in such a weird spot because Zach Edey's National Player of the Year. You can't really say he's disrespected. Except, do people believe that he can lead a team to win in March? Does that matter to these guys? Is it a chip on their shoulder, or is it pressure? And these are all things that I think this will be a good showing to see how they're handling that now. but it's so early in the season that you can still figure it out and get better towards the end of the year. But I definitely think, these 3 games are going to show just the emotional and mental makeup of this team.
Yeah.
And how much are they taking it personal? Do they, like I said, do they have the chip on their shoulder? Do they believe in themselves too much? Do they think they can just walk out and win any game? They haven't lost a non-conference game moving on 3 seasons now.
Yeah.
It's wild. Do they play like that, or do they play like a team that lost in March and is embarrassed and wants to just run all over college basketball? I think if you're looking at anything, that'll be what I'll take away from this team or this tournament.
Yeah. I think the way you put it there is absolutely perfect and not something I'd seen articulated or heard before. Is Purdue playing with a chip on their shoulder, or are they playing under pressure? Because those are 2 completely different things and 2 completely different ways of looking at kind of the same set of facts. Because you can be a team who a lot is expected of, but you can think that we haven't done it before. No one really believes that. People are doubting us. The whole, anytime somebody says one wrong word about Georgia, their squad is like, well, no one believed in us. We'd never do this. And it's like, everyone believed in you. You've just turned it into a positive because you heard one thing. So America's team. Yes. Good old Michigan, America's team, as I've always said. So is Purdue turning it into a chip on their shoulder, or are they letting the pressure get to them? Last year in the tournament, there's no doubt they let the pressure get to them. They talked about it. They've focused on it, and they allowed themselves to kind of crumble underneath it. You would hope that they've learned from that, and this year are taking it as a chip on their shoulder because they hear the remarks about FDU. They hear everything about not being able to win in March, and they're hopefully can take that and turn it into the ability to play hard, the ability to focus on each and every game. So I love that. I'm probably going to steal that later on and use that other places. But any final thoughts just about what you're looking forward to in Honolulu, whether personal or for the basketball team? Anything else?
2 quick things. I find it fascinating how this rotation's working out. Pretty much Painter has this. He's got, you can either call it 3 or 4 guys. It's Edey, Smith, Lawyer, and Jones in some capacity. That's the core. That's what everything else rotates on. And depending on who he brings out with them, first, Colvin, Heidi, Morton, the entire dynamic of the court changes. And we saw that with Xavier when it was pretty much one substitution at a time, and just one roster tweak changes what they're capable of.
Right.
And I find that fascinating because the different pieces have been so good so early. Does that continue? How does Painter play with that? And it kind of leads into my second thing. Is Braden Smith and Lance Jones good enough to lead non-Edey minutes to either net neutral or net positive scenarios? And does that where someone like Miles Colvin comes along?
Right.
Who can put up points? Morton can defend. Heidi can defend. You have lineups out there where you can go. I'm really curious to see a little more First and Gillis together while Edey's on the bench, because that's the most athletic lineup while spreading it out to give those guards room. Lance Jones has been okay without Smith and no Edey. I wonder if Painter finds it to almost take Smith earlier out of the game. So when he comes back around, it's Smith leading that unit of First and Gillis and no Edey.
Nah.
Does Painter look to maximize always having Smith or Edey on the floor? Because I think that's Purdue's ceiling. Because I think Smith has taken a leap this year that he is enough to run an offense with.
Yeah, I think that leads into what has been the knock on Purdue in recent years is everybody, March is apparently all that matters. So people look at previous teams who've won it all and say, they've got to have at least one, maybe two NBA caliber guard on the team. And when you looked at the team last year, who do you point to? I don't know. Is Miles Colvin that guy? Has Braden Smith taken a large enough jump that maybe he's that guy?
Well, I don't.
If the guards can take a big enough jump, it really does kind of quiet a lot of those questions that we've seen knocked against Purdue in years past.
Yeah, I don't think I'd frame it as NBA guard because I don't think you're ever going to look at Smith and be like, "That's clearly."
Well, no.
talent.
But I mean, I just mean that's
yes.
always how people frame it. They're like, in March, the teams who win have NBA caliber guards.
Right, and I think how that works for Purdue's favor is, well, the roster hasn't changed at guard position a ton, but it has, because Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer aren't true freshmen anymore.
Right.
And that
matters. Experience matters.
That really matters in March. So I don't think you're wrong. I think the players themselves saw that, like, guard play matters in March. And adding Lance Jones, adding Miles Colvin, Braden Smith and Fletcher taking steps up. Those are all directions, or all points in the right direction.
Yeah. So Casey and I are very excited to be heading to Hawaii over the weekend. We're going to be recording while we're there. We'll see how that works. Maybe we'll do it in person. I don't know. Yeah, beachfront. Like I said, maybe last time, Casey will get you a coconut. We'll get me a nice fruity drink with an umbrella, and we'll just go from there. So make sure to watch that one on YouTube. That one sounds like it'll be a lot more fun on YouTube. So if you're following this, make sure to like, subscribe, give us a rating, give us a review, follow us everywhere. I'm at Hammer and Rails. Where are you at on Twitter?
I'm at Boiler Upload or C. Bartley Rivals.
There you go. Make sure to head over to Rivals. You can read all about the Jakari Harris commitment that we learned about during this recording. So going to have lots of info on that, I'm sure. But for Casey and myself, thanks so much for listening, folks. We'll see you in Hawaii.